Alright, so my name is Devin Perez, and this is my scene analysis presentation on one of my favorite movies, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Before I go into the YouTube clip of the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, this scene happens in the middle of Act 2, and this is the reversal in the moment where this hero, Caesar, shifts into an entire new direction. In this scene, he speaks for the first time, and not only that, he feels powerful to finally rebel and have the power against the human authority that kept him captive. This leads to the hero's rise, but also his fall as he turns into the villain. And to give context, to answer number one, what is the scene's point and meaning in the context of the scene that came before and the scene that comes afterwards? Before the scene, Caesar the ape was taken away from his caretaker. His caretaker experimented on him with a gas that would enhance the ape's memory in order to find a cure for his father's Alzheimer's. Caesar, although very intelligent, saw his caretaker's dad being threatened, and he bit the person who was posing as a threat. This led him to getting taken away from his human caretaker and into a facility of other apes. The humans that run the place are very abusive. Caesar also gets bullied by all the other apes because he acts so different. He is stripped of the things that make Caesar human. He gets his clothes taken off, he gets beaten up, and he's forced to eat food that he's not used to. Therefore, in the scene before I play the movie, Caesar says no, and which is surprising because apes don't talk. But in that moment where he says no, it's as if he regains that humanity back. He shocks the abusive human and knocks him unconscious. This shows that the human no longer has authority over him, and Caesar has power over him. After the other apes see that Caesar takes the human, he gains the respect of all the apes that bullied him before. This therefore gives Caesar an arc where he rises to leadership and becomes a villain instead of the victim. So why do we need this scene? We need this scene because it leads to Caesar becoming the leader of the apes. It also leads to a power that Caesar receives when he gets rid of the human authority that abused him. It revives a hatred in him towards humans. He hates that the humans trap apes in cages, and therefore he frees every single ape in the city and gasses them with the memory/brain enhancement gas, leading to an uprising of smart apes who plot to become the dominant species over humankind. What is this point/meaning within the context of the entire film? It gives Caesar a new purpose. He starts off as an innocent ape whose mom was killed by a human scientist, and then he is then raised by by a human, where he gains his love and trust for humans, and then he is then taken away by that human caretaker and is abused by everyone. Now he has a hatred for humans and wants to lead an uprising of apes to rebel against human authority. Part 2, Director's Critical Choice. So what does the director want us to experience, not necessarily understand based on the way the scene is shot? At first, Caesar's emotion is rage as he acts in a violent and uncontrolled anger. But I see that Caesar's emotion is confidence, and he's having faith in his own ability and influence. In the scenes prior to this point in the movie, Caesar is stripped of all of his confidence. He gets removed from his only father figure. The only thing that he has to remember his dad is his sweatshirt, and it gets removed. He goes from a beautiful home and a loving human father to a prison cell and horrible food and abusive figures. He gets beat up by all the apes, and now he has a confidence. After this scene, he has confidence restored as he rises to power. How does the editor magnify this emotion to the way it is edited? There is a close-up shot of the abusive human. It then cuts to a long shot where the camera focuses on the human's electric weapon and Caesar in the distance, almost like a cowboy shoot-off with the tumbleweeds, like it's Caesar versus the human authority. The scenes cut between close-up shots of Caesar and back to the zookeeper. Caesar stands calm, bold, and angry. The zookeeper runs his mouth to intimidate the ape, but Caesar has no fear. The camera rotates around them in 360 degrees, filming behind the bars of the prison cell. This almost gives the viewer the point of view from the apes locked in the prison cells. The apes look in anticipation of what Caesar is going to do. It then cuts to middle close-ups of different apes and the other zookeeper pointing a gun at Caesar. It builds tension to see what Caesar is going to do as he stands his ground. The zookeeper then shocks Caesar multiple times. The camera cuts back to the apes screaming and going wild. This builds to the tension as Caesar is getting shocked and yelled at. Caesar then catches the zookeeper's weapon and the music stops. The zookeeper pays homage to the original Planet of the Apes movies by saying, "Get your stinking paws off me, you dang dirty ape." The camera slowly zooms into Caesar as the music starts to intensify, and when Caesar says no, or screams no, the music stops and there is an awkward silence of disbelief. There are then multiple cuts to close-up of different apes' reactions, the zookeeper's reactions, and the sniper's reaction. All of them are in shock, fear, and disbelief. Caesar then hits the zookeeper, and the music comes back. There is another 360-degree shot circling around Caesar as he screams no over and over again. This makes Caesar appear powerful. The camera then follows Caesar as he runs around the zoo screaming no over and over again, and then he drags the human out of the scene. Part 3, point of view. Who has the most significant emotional change during the scene? So, the zookeeper, in my opinion, that gets hit by Caesar has the most significant emotional change during the scene. Prior to this scene, he is very cocky and abusive, knowing that through intimidation he has the upper hand over the apes. He capitalizes on his smartness over the stupid animals and abuses them by talking down on them like as if they are just stupid animals. In this scene in particular, you can tell he attempts to be very intimidating. He starts off confident, arrogant, and a little angered that Caesar got out of his cage. Then he gets up a little nervous that Caesar stands his ground, and then he calls for the sniper for backup. As he gets closer to Caesar, you can see his face start to show anxiety. Then it goes back to an attempt to intimidation as he starts shocking Caesar. The zookeeper's confidence and arrogance grows again, seeing that he has no power over Caesar through his weapon. Seeing that he has power over Caesar through his weapon. However, when Caesar screams no, that's when there is a significant emotional change. There is a shock of trying to process what just happened, a realization that the ape is smarter than he thought, and a fear that he is in big trouble and that he's going to get demolished by this ape. Part 4, primary function. The director's use of the transition. I said that the scene transition is used to build tension and also give them a sense of relief. There's a tension as you have a feeling that the zookeeper is gonna get harmed in some way through the scene, but when the sniper arrives, you fear for both of them. The tension builds up until the moment Caesar yells no, and there's a relief of the tension. It also makes audience feel just as shocked as all the animals were. At this point in the movie, you had no idea this was coming, that the ape would speak. Although the original Planet of the Apes movies had talking apes, this scene still caught me off guard and shocked me when I watched this as an 11-year-old. Part 5. Identify specific examples of how editing plays a significant role in fulfilling its function. So I said that the zooming in / close-up shots on every individual ape and human faces adds to the tension. In the lead up to Caesar saying no, the apes are in curious and anxious anticipation to what the zookeeper is going to do to Caesar. This is highlighted by zooming in on the faces of the apes as they rise to see what is going on outside of their cages. When Caesar says no, there are close-up shots on everybody's faces and they are all in disbelief. This effect also shows the audience to also be in disbelief. The editing of music also played a part in the build-up of tension and the shock factor as there is an awkward silence when Caesar says no. It's almost as if both the audience and the apes and the zookeepers are trying to process what just happened. Which leads me into part 6. What function does the music play in the scene? The music builds the tension as there is a very quiet violin playing in the background. It kind of gives it an atmosphere of anxiety and tension as the zookeeper is approaching Caesar. The music along with the apes going wild add to the tension of the scene when it gets louder and louder and suddenly stops into silence when Caesar catches the weapon. As Caesar says no, the build-up of the violin sound rises up until he says no again. Caesar's no is followed by a silence that adds to the shock factor that interrupts the tension. After Caesar hits the zookeeper, the music goes back. The music is almost cinematic and motivational. It makes the audience feel empowered, and Caesar gets empowered by this rebellious act. So that is basically my scene analysis of Caesar saying no in Rise of the Planet of the Apes.